Battleground Aleppo. With each death, hatred grows among the survivors, among the various rebel groups, amid the militants, the deserters, and the religious extremists. It is estimated that between 125 and 270,000 refugees have fled the country. They're waiting for the end of Assad's regime. In Berlin, the government is also waiting for a post-Assad Syria. A half year has passed since the German foreign minister first called for Assad to step down.
The Assad regime's collapse has begun.
We think his time is over. We think that he should step aside.
Westerwelle has announced that his ministry is helping the Syrian opposition prepare for the future.
One of the German government's goals is to strengthen and professionalize the opposition, and in the process to help them develop stringent plans for the future of their country.
In Berlin, Ferhad Ahmar is a member of the opposition. The Syrian-born activist is part of the exiled Syrian National Council. With help from the Foreign Ministry, Ahmar and other activists are drawing up plans for what his native country could look like after regime change in Damascus.
The most important question the day after it happens will be security, guaranteeing the security of the country and its people. And that is the plan in the first 6, 12, and 24 hours after a possible collapse of the government. We have to secure the borders, the airport, and as far as possible, the people on the streets.
Germany contacted the opposition as early as last winter, encouraging the various religious and ethnic groups to reach a compromise so they can disperse the hatred and violence after Assad. Opposition leaders were even flown in from Syria for secret meetings at a political foundation in Berlin. They drew up plans for a transition period should the regime be toppled.
We talked about elections, about what type of election system would be best for Syria in a new government, also the constitutional process and the constitution itself as law, as well as other issues, especially the process of reconciliation.
The opposition is well aware that a new government will be successful if it can guarantee safety and a quick economic recovery. The German government has promised to help in that process too. But violence is still raging in Syria. Writer Christian Hellberg lived in Damascus until recently and says drawing up plans for a post-Assad Syria has done little to help the current situation. Still, she says it sends an important message.
From the start, one of the protesters' biggest goals was to make a stand against corruption and cronyism. And I think Germany's goal was to make clear that in the future, they would only provide economic cooperation to opposition groups and not to Assad's government. It's good that they wanted to send a signal early on, even if there are more important things right now.
Ferhad Ahmar agrees. He and other activists are helping to raise money for the opposition. But he knows that their plans for Syria's future don't guarantee stability. He says people throughout the country will have to take an active part in shaping a new future.
That's where the international community has to come in, to provide support and help very fast. They can't just help us with the plans for the future and say that their responsibility ends there.
And creating a democratic framework doesn't guarantee that Syria will become the democracy many Western leaders hope for.
Germany and other Western countries have to understand that if Syria and its neighbors move towards democracy, it means that Islamic groups will gain ground too. We saw that in Tunisia and in Egypt. You have to accept that Islamic groups will play a role. They'll be democratically elected, and you have to wait and see what they do. So at this point, you can't dismiss anyone.
Still, the opposition has been largely fractured. plagued by infighting and power plays, making it even harder for the international community to find a solid partner for the future of Syria.